I saw this thing roll across my Facebook feed today. It was some page was doing a battle of a bracket to find the greatest punk album of all time or whatever. And so, whatever, every day they have people vote on a pairing.
Of course.
Yeah. I never interact with these things, but I saw this one today, presumably because the algorithm has noticed what I've been searching for on the internet recently. And this one was Suffer and the Witness versus Black Sails in the Sunset.
Wow.
And I was like, I need to ask you what you would pick there.
Oh my God. That's tough. Fuck.
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music through the lens of our favorite artist discographies. I'm Troy Sennett.
And I'm Matt Kistler.
And today we are finishing up our series on Rise Against, talking about their ninth and as yet final, but that probably won't be the case for very long, album, Nowhere Generation. This came out June 3rd, 2021 on Loma Vista Records. This was their first album for Loma Vista. They've kind of bounced around big labels a bit, and I think this is one of those ones that's like technically an independent, but a partnership with major labels or something like that. I don't know. It's still big. And this album after they kind of left the Blasting Room fold for Wolves. They're back with Bill Stevenson, Jason Livermore, and the team over there at the Blasting Room for production, mixed by Bill Stevenson. And this album is like the reason I wanted to do this series. I think if we had started this podcast in 2019 or 2020 and Rise Against's career had been like a decade of like albums we liked less and less, and then sitting on Wolves, I think I would just have been really bummed out, which I was like at the time.
Yeah.
And like this feels like a bit of a return to form, a bit of a redemption arc. Like it makes me excited to be a Rise Against fan again. What do you think of this one? What was your reaction to it when it came out?
I really liked this record when it came out. I don't think I listened to it a ton, but I do just remember it being an absolute breath of fresh air after just kind of the steady decline that we were seeing, kind of more or less starting with Appeal to Reason and then just kind of going downhill from there through Wolves. And like, we'll get into it, but I think I like this record more now than I did in 2021, which is wild. But yeah, I think at the time I saw it as a return to form. I think as I've revisited it now, I feel like it is less about it sounding more like old Rise Against and more Rise Against like being cool with doing what they're comfortable with and doing it well. I know that's a tension that they've always kind of tried to bridge, and we've talked a lot on this podcast about various bands, namely Thursday, kind of dealing with the weight of expectations from both ends, like from the fan end and from their end, and I guess also from the label end, if you want to pull that in there too. But that got weird for them, and seems I don't really know what Rise Against's relationship with any of the labels they've been on in the time since DGC/Interscope has been, but this record feels like it kind of came out pretty naturally, whereas like it kind of felt like they were forcing something that wasn't working for the last couple.
Yeah, I mean they talk in the interviews about they spent more time writing this one. They were kind of let the songs come as they come and work on them and over a longer period of time, I think. I can't remember if they recorded this in a bunch of separate sessions or kind of did it all at once, but I think the recording even stretched into the pandemic era.
Yeah, they said they were mostly done with it by then, at least from a writing perspective, but I don't know how far the recording got into that.
Yeah, but regardless, this is very different than when they've talked about, we realized we had a month to make the record and then we only had 3 weeks to write most of the songs, or, they have a lot of the albums they've talked about feeling burnt out or stressed, going into the writing or the recording process, or being maybe a little underprepared. And this one, there's really none of that. This is like a return to like a confidence in sort of defining a theme of an album and assembling an album and having a really good set of strong songs to choose from. It's I don't know, it's exactly what I want from Rise Against. And I think we can kind of get into the thematic ideas of the album. That this is like Tim says this is an album about the promise of the American dream and how it's failing in entire generations of people. Which is the sort of the nowhere generation, which he kind of is wants to make distinct from just an age thing and more of like an attitude thing, or a class thing. It's such an obvious idea for a Rise Against album. It's much less about specific political figures, as Wolves was very much a Trump album, and this is more of an album about the system, and which is again harkens back to classic Rise Against. It's what they're comfortable doing and it's what they're good at. And like, I don't know, I love when bands expand and try new stuff, and I also love when bands do the thing that they're really, really good at. It's like they've got they know the template of what works in a Rise Against song, and they're doing it. But I think they're also playing with new textures and layers within that template, which is it's what makes this good.
Yeah, I really think like some of the little like arrangement things that kind of sneak in here from the more interesting forays they've done on previous albums. Like it feels like they've filed off the sharper edges of those things, and I mean that in a good way, whereas I think that might usually be a little derogatory. But yeah, I really think this got shaped into a really like great album. I do think kind of the approach of going at the core of the album being like, yeah, man, things are fucked, as opposed to this specific thing is fucked, was a good turn for them. And I do, from a band that is, getting older, it is kind of a breath of fresh air to see them kind of embrace this anti-boomer mentality of like, yeah, man, no, like it's still bad. The kids are inheriting shit, and we need to make it better for them. Like we can't. I saw a comic last week that was somebody was getting talked to by, I think, a teacher or some other like authority figure, and the teacher was like, yeah, so climate change is going to be the big project of your generation, and her response was, so you're just not going to do anything about it?
Yeah,
and I'm like. And I feel like that, like this is just the polar opposite of that. This is the like what can we do for this generation that's been forsaken? Like what we're on the older end of that. Like the members of Rise Against are like, if we're doing an age wise thing, they're mostly like Gen X, like a little older than us, a little older, like a full decade older than us, but still, like it is. I think it's poignant that an album like this comes at this point in their career. And like, I don't think I ever saw them as a band that was going to get, shittier with time in terms of their attitudes towards, making the world a better place. But still, I feel like it works at this point in their career specifically, not only as a album that I like more, but just as an album that like reapproaches this like kind of already well-tread subject matter in a fresh way.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder how much of it stems not only from being like you said, Gen X or Xennials or whatever who have aged, without betraying their ideals that they had when they were young, to harken back to Architects, but also how much of it becomes like they are parents of Gen Z kids, like. I think they probably get some perspective from that, and this isn't an album about being a parent, but it's an album about being aware of what people like a generation younger than you are going through. And I think just that awareness and that recognition it's in a lot of these songs, and I think it's what can drive you to a certain side of the political aisle or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, and like to your point, I think the kind of I don't want to say like beginner's mind that comes with being a child, but the constant need to ask questions of basic things. Like a lot of people end up frustrated with that with kids in general, their kids, what have you. but like this feels like a perspective that looks at like the next generation going, hey, this is messed up, why are we doing things like this, and going, yeah, man, you're right. Like, and that rules.
Yeah.
That rules so hard.
I think I'm a parent. I'm going to be dealing with this before too long. Like,
Yeah.
I think the impulse to just keep asking why is like, it's like a joke. It's, you think it's annoying when a kid does it, and maybe it is, but it's also like, you want to keep that for your life. You want to stay throughout your life. You want to stay curious. And I think if that's not like the theme of this album, it's sort of an underpinning of how, Tim as a writer is dealing with a lot of these ideas that are sort of the stated, thesis of the album.
Yeah, definitely.
We should get into the songs because we actually have a lot to talk about on this one.
There are so many songs.
This starts off with the numbers, which is just like, thematically no different from what Rise Against has been doing on albums, both good and bad, as an opener. But I just immediately feel like I'm in safe hands again when they kick into like the 6/8 intro and then into the fast 4/4 verses, like all these time changes and the intensity, the riffs. It is like we're so back embodied in a song.
Well, yeah, and it's like the intro is like a Russian revolutionary song. So like that's we're starting off on the right foot when you get that, and then you get that really like great opening riff, which they bring back in the chorus because it's incredible. Like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it feels like Rise Against recognizing or remembering what they do best. There's this idea that they kind of seed here early in the song about early in the album about how this the nowhere generation, as we'll get to, the kids of today are like ready to do something but also bored of the sort of status quo, the way that things are, what's been handed to them, whether that's social media or their sort of position in the world. But I think that this idea of like a generation that's jaded and bored but wants to change is sort of essential to the arc of the album.
Definitely, yeah, and we'll get. I think this comes up more in later songs, but the kind of tension that exists internally for a person who's in that position, I think, is explored pretty broadly on this album. Not so much this song. This is very much a like there are more of us than them type song.
Yeah,
which rules. Like they do it really well here.
I will say the one like kind of nit I have to pick with this song is that I think the what will continue to be is what we allow is like an oddly constructed lyric to end the chorus, and feels like it doesn't let the chorus hit, like it doesn't leave me with the sort of punch the way that I want a Rise Against chorus to. But I think that's a small thing in a song that I otherwise like a ton.
Yeah, I think this is overall a really strong song, but I can totally see that.
Yeah. After that is Sudden Urge. Which again, just like a classic Rise Against track 2. It's a really fast driving song. This feels kind of like an Endgame idea. Very much a song about that, like, oh, what if the American dream is just a complete lie, and we would be better off burning down everything that sort of underpins our social structure and starting over.
Yeah, that's it. I don't even know. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that like parallels Endgame, but yeah, you're right. But it's a better version of that, including
really
like
is.
Being borderline a metal song. They really nailed the riff on this one, I think, by comparison.
Yeah, there's no point on this album where, like with the Southern rock songs in the last couple, where we're just like, this is not an idea that works for them. They're doing the thing they're good at.
Yeah.
What do you think of the 4th of July imagery on this?
That feels like a trick they've pulled before, like doing the classic American imagery to contrast what they're actually singing about. I think 4th of July is maybe a little easy. But if we're doing the explosion parallel, I understand why they chose that one in particular.
Yeah, I get a little bit of the like, the most patriotic thing you can do is dissent idea in that it's just it's a little messy, maybe in its actual presentation.
Yeah, I get that. I think it mostly works though.
Yeah, I think it does too. It's a good song. It makes me like excited about where the album is going.
Yeah.
Then after that we get to the title track, Nowhere Generation. This is sort of the thesis of the album. I believe it was the first sort of actual single for the album. I think Broken Dreams Incorporated was released earlier as like a sort of soft single or standalone. But this is just, the song is pretty straightforward about this idea that, the world we're inheriting from our elders is not the one that we're promised. We are kind of the first generation to not expect to do better than our parents. And as a song, it's got that pop song construction that they played with on the last album a little bit, where it opens with the chorus and it's got that sort of an acoustic version of the chorus to start, and then it picks up and it turns into a classic Rise Against song pretty quickly. What do you think of this one?
I think the first time I heard this, and even like on a couple subsequent listens, I wasn't super hot on it. I think like going a little more into the lyrics and like kind of, reading it against the kind of central thesis of the album made me like it more. That chorus is so catchy. So
it
like
really is.
I can't fault it for that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I think overall I land on really liking this one. Like the core conceit of the song is one I can definitely get behind. Opening with the chorus is a bold move, but they pull it off really well here. I think this works both as a nice, I don't want to say a nice radio friendly single, but like a single that is capable of like playing well on radio while also being like a pretty strong like title track like contender. Like I see if the album wasn't named after this song, like I can see, or that was a weird way of putting that. I feel like I understand why this is the title track, why this got picked, because it really like distills down the ideals of the album like pretty succinctly and pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, there was an interview that I read with, I think, Substream, where Tim talked about that, like that I think this was one of the first songs written for the album, and the way that I guess he picks album titles, or the band picks album titles, is they'll write everything and then look back and see like what are the sort of central embodying ideas of the album, what is driving this, feels like it should be driving this era of the band, and we're also considering things like what is the iconography associated with it, what's going to look good on merchandise and on our tour banners and stuff like that. And that this is the one that the band all settled on as being like, it seems like it fits what we want to say with this album the most. So I think that what you're picking up on that is exactly right.
Yeah, that did remind me that I watched a couple of interviews with Tim, and they were all in his like little home recording studio / office, and he just like the things you could see in the background were guitars. There was like a yoga mat on the floor. There was a copy of Nowhere Generation, and then just on the wall there was a Nowhere Generation flag.
It's a cool. I like what they did with that. All the TVs and stuff like that. It's a cool
think
looking,
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a cool looking design style for this album. Couple of things to like. We're spending a long time on the song, but a couple of things I want to call out on it because I think they're done really well. The verses almost have this like Americana tinge to them.
Yes,
I think that like kind of driving snare drum thing, but it's not crazy loud. It's like a style they haven't really played in much as a full band. I hear it more on the acoustic tracks. In the what was the Where's the Band tour style stuff that Tim did.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I also like there's organ in the song. And this album is sort of the first time they've included a lot of keyboards. And I think Chris Beeble, one of the Blasting Room engineers or producers, played a lot of that. And it adds a layer to these songs that it wasn't there on Rise Against albums before. And it opens up the sound a lot.
Yeah, it really like melds into the sound that they are cultivating with the core band really well. And I love that.
Did you check out the music video for this one?
I did briefly. I kind of like sped through the music videos before I joined the call because that was like the one thing I didn't have time for today.
Yeah, it's not that exciting as a music video. It's really just them playing on, I think, the same set that they do the Nowhere sessions, which we'll talk about later on, and just interspersed with these shots of like ants and mice and office workers. Your typical sort of drone imagery, I guess. They do that a lot. Which they use this footage in the announcement video for the album, and I think they reuse a lot of footage throughout all the like any visual stuff for this record, which we'll kind of get to as we go along. But the other thing about this is they also released an acoustic version, which they called the Ghost Note Symphonies version, using that branding. Did you listen to that?
I did not get a chance to listen to that one.
It's quite good. There's a couple different versions of it. There's one that's just kind of the standard Rise Against version. Then there's one where Meg Myers does a guest spot on the second verse. It's cool.
Oh, dope.
It's worth checking out.
Nice. Yeah, I will have to check that out. I like kind of prioritized as like, okay, do I listen to the songs that have multiple versions first, or and that unfortunately fell to the bottom.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. After that is Talking to Ourselves. This is like another, in my opinion, just really great, catchy Rise Against this pop punk band song. Almost feels like kind of what they were doing on Paper Wings or Dirt Whispered, my favorite songs of theirs. I always really love this one. Do you like this one?
I love this one. The like octave riff over like Joe just going nuts is just like candy to me.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, this one seems like it is kind of like speaking to that tension that I was like kind of talking about earlier, where like we come to these lines like, if I said this all to your face, forgive me, sometimes I forget my place, where like this song to me, and I'm pretty sure the bottom, if anybody looks at the Genius page for any of these songs, Tim like has a blurb on all of them down at the bottom, which is nice. But like, you know, my read on the song was just kind of like how do we speak out in a way that is effective enough to change minds and isn't just like speaking into an echo chamber, more or less. And this song seems to kind of touch on like, yeah, when I'm not talking to like my buds who already kind of have the same ideals as me, or this crowd of fans that also have the same ideals as me, like is that doing anything? And I know Tim had talked about like kind of that, you know, the feeling of how he wants his songs to hit, you know, being something that he thinks about a lot. And this seems like it's a little bit about that too.
Yeah, definitely that. I think it's also harkens back to the idea in Life Less Frightening from Siren Song that people don't necessarily want the destruction of everything, despite maybe what Southern Urge is about, but like they just want things to be just a little bit better, you know. And I think that's going through this song too.
Yeah, definitely.
I do get a kick out of the chorus lyric of like, I never wanted to disturb the peace, because
you sure, dude?
Right. Because that's the thing. In interviews, Tim has been like, "Oh, I've always been an instigator. I've always been a contrarian." And so I always laugh at that lyric. I understand exactly what he's saying with the lyric. I'm not like picking it apart or whatever, because I think it really works as a chorus for the song. But I do thinking about like, I just watched an interview where you said that you just like making people mad sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little sus in that regard.
Yeah. This one also has a music video with an art gallery full of QR codes that when these classy art gallery patrons scan the QR codes, they see like war and famine and factory farming and your classic, basically they see a Rise Against music video when they scan the QR codes.
While a Rise Against video plays on those 3 TVs in like the middle of the room or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a really good concept for a music video. I think the music videos by this point have gone just like totally out of style. Nobody makes like really great music videos anymore. What was the last great music video you saw? I can't even.
God. That wasn't an OK Go video, you mean?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, those are that's their whole thing. So yeah. I'm not gonna disparage them for it.
I should have thought of an answer to that question before I asked it, because I actually don't know what the last like great new music video that I saw was.
I'm honestly not sure.
Off the top of my head, it's "I Don't Want to Be an Asshole Anymore" by the Menzingers, and that was
that one's pretty good.
Coming up on 10 years ago now.
Oof.
8 years ago. Yeah. That aside, I'm glad that this was kind of put out there as a single. I think it's a great representation of what this album is.
Yeah, definitely. I and like kind of coming back to the video, I like that they like kind of go for an extra layer of like, I don't want to say social commentary because that sounds like reductive, but like, basically like the art world itself is its own like weird fraught thing in terms of like class disparity between artists and the people who are allowed to consume art on that level.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, obviously that's not that important to the song itself. So
right, it's an interesting idea to explore, though.
Yeah, definitely.
After that is Broken Dreams Incorporated. This was sort of like I said earlier, the soft single that introduced this era of the band, if not the album itself. This another, I think, just another great song. The first half of this album is, in my opinion, just banger after banger. This one specifically, I think the bass work in it is great. This is Joe like kind of returning to form after, I think, being not as powerful on Wolves. But yeah, I mean, this is a song about, again, the idea, you know, driving home more ideas of this album about how corporations have held the power in our capitalist system and how that's led to a lot of the ills of our society.
Yeah. It's interesting to, interesting feels like such a bad word. Anyway, I looking through kind of the Genius annotations on not specifically this song, but like just kind of this album in general, there was a lot of like kind of framing things through the lens of protests that happened in 2020, like stuff that happened after this album was like written, and people just saying you're overanalyzing this. This was recorded well before then, but I'm like, but like that kind of speaks to the kind of, you know, not timeless nature necessarily, but like that speaks to why these songs are important. Like a line like when the city streets are barricaded, you know, that feels like, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that. Like I remember the bridges coming up in 2020 here, and like how fucking freaky that was for, you know, a lot of my friends, and for, you know, me as a person who cared about the shit that was being protested about.
Yeah, well, but I think the important thing is like you can grouse all you want about like when the song was written versus, you know, whatever events you think it's referencing or whatever, but like this stuff repeats. Like,
yeah,
this is none of this, like, protesting wasn't invented in 2020. Like,
no, definitely not.
I think I think the, you know, the band would agree too that they're tapping into like the cyclical nature of you know, dissent and resistance and those things, you know, being crushed in one place and you know, spouting up again somewhere else. Like, I think, and that's, I mean, Tim draws a connection to Generation Lost, which is kind of about that too.
Yeah,
and like, you know, it's essential to this album, the idea that, like, you know, Gen Z is not the first generation to think that they are inheriting a broken world, you know, and I think that you know, this goes back decades, and that's, you know, he's trying to identify you know, some of the causes, but also, like, yeah, this stuff isn't new, and I think that's important to the album as well,
for sure. An interesting thing about this track is I guess it was like pretty late game, which feels like it happens with a lot of their like big singles. It's like, oh yeah, this is the last thing we wrote for the album. It was maybe not going to make it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting then that it became like one of the first songs that they released.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about just the line "Broken Dreams Incorporated"? I feel like it works in the chorus. I don't know how I feel about it being just repeated over and over again in the breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know if it loses potency, but it is. I'm always going to prefer more lyrics to repeated lyrics. It's such a simple, like, straightforward, almost cliche image, but Tim sells it really well with his performance, which again is like a strength of his going back to their earliest albums.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a Health remix of this song that I don't like in my usual anti-remix stance.
I'm not gonna come too hard to its defense. I do like Health, and I do think Health does a good job of remixing songs. I do like the vibe shift that this undergoes. And there's that Idols remix of what song did they remix?
They remixed Talking to Ourselves. Yeah, I just totally skipped over that in my notes.
Oh, it's fine. Both remixes are like kind of sitting in a similar place vibes wise, which is very odd because I think Health and Idols are two incredibly different bands.
Yeah, one of them's good.
Damn, got their ass.
I had such a bad experience seeing Health. Maybe they're a good band, but I thought they were one of the worst live sets I've ever seen.
I don't think I've ever seen them live, so I would contend that they're a pretty good band, but that's fair. But yeah, like both remixes are like, I don't feel like they're super necessary, but like I was walking down Addison listening to them yesterday on the way to the Metro, and it worked for me mostly in that context.
Yeah. After that is Forfeit. This is the acoustic ballad of this album. It is, in my opinion, not their best acoustic song, but it's nice. It's at least going for something different arrangement wise. It's more finger picked than strummed, which Tim mentioned was kind of a challenge for him. But it's got a lot of nice piano in it too. What do you think of this one?
I think I like this one. Yeah, not as much as like some of the other acoustic tracks that we've gotten from the band, but like, yeah, I think the arrangements are really what makes it. I'm glad that Chris won the fight in whether or not Tim should learn to finger pick for this song. Like, yeah, I don't know. This reminds me a lot of like some of like Thrice's acoustic work, just in terms of like energy, not necessarily lyrical content, but like some of the melody stuff kind of reminds me of when they're doing that kind of thing, like On the Earth EP and, you know, other stuff that Dustin has done outside of the band.
Honestly, this is actually probably closer to Thrice lyrically than Rise Against usually gets.
That's fair.
This idea of like devotion to a person or a cause, no matter what, I think is that actually is. I feel like Thrice has gone to that well multiple times.
They certainly have.
We got to do a Thrice series. It's gonna happen.
Have to do a Thrice series.
Anything else about Forfeit? I don't have a ton to say about this song.
No, I think it's generally pleasant. I'm never gonna skip it, but I don't think I'm gonna like slot or single it out as a like single song to listen to off this album. I'll come back to other ones long before it.
Yeah, I agree. One of those songs for me would be the next one, Monarch. This is just absolutely rips. Just
I love this song.
Same. They're playing fast and loud again. It's got a great chorus, a great melody with really evocative lyrics. The song about like finding your voice and becoming yourself, I guess, is the best way to think of it. Yeah, it's so good.
It really is. Like just kind of having this backdrop of the, you know, the idea of something that rules over you, and oh my God, I'm gonna say it, rising against it to find your own voice. Like it's not anything that they haven't, you know, kind of touched on before, but I feel like it's really effective here, and just the instrumental of the song like really bolsters it a lot. Like everything fits together so well.
Yeah, I gotta give him credit on this one for like letting the monarch butterfly imagery be more implied than like working it into the song itself. It's really just in the title, which is more subtle than Tim usually is as a writer, which I like. I also think that they're doing something kind of different structure wise here, where they do a verse chorus bridge out thing. They don't really hit the chorus again. They just leave you on this like, do you remember thing at the end? Which is a sort of different structure thing for them. It works really well.
Yeah. I truly like. I think this is one of my favorite songs on the album, like hands down.
It's up there for me. I went for a run with this album on a couple days ago, and this song hit at exactly the right time to like give me an energy boost. It was good.
Perfect.
After that is Sounds Like. We're getting into the B side of this album, and I think some of these songs are like, I can tell why they're in this part of the album, but that's not to say that they're bad. I think this is actually quite a cool song. So I guess sort of a song about the idea that like things are worth doing even if they aren't successful, and that like the most important thing is like taking some kind of action. What do you think of this one? Yeah,
I mean, from a lyrical standpoint, like very classic Rise Against, nobody's going to do it for you type thing. If you're waiting for something else to solve a problem for you, it will never come. I mean, maybe it will, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like there's bits of this song where there's like kind of twinkly guitar and like the song is more or less being driven by the bass, which I obviously love. But I think I put that my one nitpick with the song is there's that pause after this is what they sound like, I think the first time that they say it. And I want that pause to be just a little longer.
Yeah, you could live in that idea a little bit more. I like what they're doing there. That's like, excuses are just silence, and then the next time they do this is what it sounds like. It's a breakdown.
Yeah.
That's it's cool, sort of like diegetic song construction.
Yes, definitely.
I like that Tim described this as an exasperation of a song, which is a really good like sort of turn of phrase to talk about what it's about. To him, it's a song about like, how are we back here again after, whatever, we keep trying to make things change and nothing happens.
Yeah.
I know, it's a good one. Next up after that is Sooner or Later. This is, Tim describes this as a song with an identity crisis.
Yep.
Between like the darker verses and the poppy chorus and sort of two different versions of the band. I don't know that I hear it a little bit. Obviously, I hear the sort of stylistic changes, but I think this is still like right down the middle of what Rise Against is good at.
Yeah, I don't think it's like going too far out from things they've done before. Yeah, like sonically, yes, like we do have these kind of two contrasting moods, and like generally the lyrics are kind of dour throughout. But that's not something that they would necessarily shy away from before. Like they've definitely done almost exactly that on several albums before this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Our Precious Time Is Running Out scream? Because I think I like it, but I'm not sure.
It's fine. I mean, I like what it leads into. I think that like breakdown riff after that is like, that's I complained a lot especially on Appeal to Reason about how it felt like they were doing a version of hard rock that I think is boring, that I don't like. This is, literally my notes is like the breakdown riff is how Rise Against should do hard rock.
Yes, definitely agree on that one. And I mean, like, obviously there's like, I hesitate to call it an undertone because it's like kind of just in the text. We've got our song about the environment here, in many ways, which you gotta have.
Yeah, it's less in your face than something like the Eco-Terrorist in Me, but it's there.
Sure. Yeah.
After that is Middle of a Dream. This is a song that I said I didn't like the back half of this album as much, but I think and now that I'm like talking about all these songs, they have very catchy choruses. I'm like singing each one of them in my head. But this is kind of a song about sort of, I have kind of two readings of it. One is about how you can be haunted by loss, and the other is about this like idea of constantly chasing an opportunity or success without even knowing what it is. I think either one kind of works.
I mean, and I think those two are kind of tied. I'm reminded of Stage 4 by Touche Amore when I think about kind of this general intersection of subjects, like being faced with something tragic and, having to continue to live your life through that. And after that, more specifically, I don't think that's an unfamiliar subject for most people, honestly. Like this is not meant to be disparaging. Like it is relatable in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know that I have a ton more to say about this one either. I do like the piano in it a lot, though.
I also like the piano in this a lot.
Yeah, after that, we get to the album closer, Rules of Play. This is, I think, a pretty solid closing track. Certainly better than a lot of the latter career closing tracks.
Yeah,
but it's a song about finding connection with people who share your values and kind of know your perspective and will listen and see what you've been through and what your life is like. And Tim is so careful in the interview to like say that this is not a song about building an echo chamber, because there's no good that can come of that. But like it's still a song about like how it can be really special to find someone who just feels the same about things as you do.
Yeah, I mean, kind of looking at this, going back to the kind of Nowhere Generation like theme in general, like we can't ignore like the younger folks in the world who are feeling this way. Like, I think a lot of people who ultimately get into punk, I say a lot, it should be most, but in my experience, a lot of punks turn out pretty terrible after a while. But like, yeah, it is such a special thing to like kind of, have this worldview that you feel like is maybe not necessarily wrong, but like, it feels like it's outside the norm, and then realize that there are in fact other people out there who not necessarily agree with you, but like view the world in a similar way, like see like through the cracks of like the everyday, like, oh, there's something like dark here and we should do something about it, as opposed to, like just kind of rolling with things because that's the way they've always been or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's a song about like coalition building, I guess, in the sense that like you're if you can find people that do feel sort of broken in the same way as you, you're more likely to have some solidarity with them and with other people who are connected to those people, and that's how you build the numbers, the strength in numbers, as the album starts off talking about.
Oh man, you could loop this album and it would work. I do also remember seeing like just kind of like in discussions on like Reddit and forums and stuff that like it seems like this is a song that a lot of autistic folks like relate with, just kind of the idea in general of like not necessarily understanding the rules and like that kind of casting you out in a way, and then finding community among people who also feel that way. And I think that's really cool and special.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the album. There's plenty more in this era of the band, but
there's so much more.
Yeah, but just pausing for a second to say that like I think this is a really, really good collection of Rise Against songs. I'm gonna make a case as we get into the B-sides and the second EP or the follow-up EP that like there's even better songs they didn't put on the album. But if this was all that we got, I would still feel very, very positively about it.
Yeah, like this stands up on its own two legs, like very much. Like the fact that we got a literal sequel is very cool, and does kind of make me think, oh, well, what if we just slotted this in here? Like, what if we swapped this over to Nowhere Generation 2? But like, yeah, if we didn't get anything else after this, I think I would be just very happy with what we got. Like, I don't think there's a dud on here at all.
No, I don't feel the need to do an Under the Blacklight on this one.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But yeah, so shortly after this album came out, this is obviously comes out deep in the COVID era where bands aren't touring and whatnot. They did what they called the Nowhere sessions, which were, I guess, just live, or I don't know if they actually broadcast them live. I'm guessing they didn't, but
I don't think they did.
Live in the studio, they basically set up all the TVs from the album cover and played a handful of songs, including a couple, like a Creedence Clearwater cover, a Misfits cover, a couple hits from this album, and Savior. Did you watch these or listen to these?
I listened to them. I did not watch them.
I mean, the visuals are like cool, but it's the same thing after a while.
Sure, yeah.
What'd you think of these?
I think it's pretty good. I love Rise Against as a live band. And I think they pull off these newer songs pretty well. I don't know why Hybrid Moments is the Misfits track that everybody decided that they needed to cover like post 2010, but I think it's been going strong since then. I like that song, don't get it twisted. But it's an interesting choice for this particular collection of songs. I know they've played Fortunate Son since then, specifically at that Riot Fest where Fucked Up got stopped at the border, except for Damien, who was like already in the US.
Yeah.
And he came on and did the song with them, and that was super cool to watch.
I mean, Rise Against covering Fortunate Son is only like slightly less obvious than Fortunate Son playing in like a Vietnam War movie.
Yes,
but like it's still cool. They sound good doing it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like I think it's a solid collection of live-ish songs. I think it mostly works, and it's we get Savior, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I gotta say,
we've already talked at length about this song.
Okay, I have to say that I did not mention this last week. So in one of those like interview videos that Tim did breaking down, here's what the songs on Wolves are about, there was also a bit about Savior, and he was like, I don't like this song. I wanted to leave it off the album.
Yeah.
Wanted to just like fist bump him through the screen and be like, yeah, me too.
I actually also came across that, and I thought it was beautiful.
But yeah, they get a lot of like mileage out of the footage they shot for this because they reused some of it in the Talking to Ourselves video. I think they shot the Nowhere Generation video on the same set or probably like on the same day. And they used, I feel like I saw somewhere else that they used some of this footage. It just kind of informed the entire, visual language of the era of the band, I think.
Yeah, I do really love how strong of a brand this album has in general.
Yeah, I mean, they did that, I mean, somewhat on some of the other albums, but I think this is the most like, marketing push, for better or worse, album that they've had.
Definitely.
But yeah, so then about a year or so after Nowhere Generation came out in 2022, they released Nowhere Generation 2, which is an EP that is the rest of the songs from those sessions. They said they recorded 16 songs for the album and thought about releasing a 16-song album, but then wanted, right, I think correctly, each song to have to stand on its own a little bit more. And so Nowhere Generation 2 is the leftovers. But in general, I think that most of these songs are at least as good as what's on the album. Do you want to go through them all one by one, or you just want to kind of call out favorites?
Why don't we go through them all? I think it warrants it.
Yeah, I think I agree. So it starts off with The Answer, which is just more of what is good about Nowhere Generation. It's like a confident, exciting opening track. A lot of cool stuff going on with like, dynamics. Again, they kind of go down in the bridge and then build back up into the chorus with a really sick bass line.
Yeah, that like halftime pre-bridge is just so tasty.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, they're just more iterating on the theme of like a discontented generation that's been lied to and left behind.
Definitely. I also really love that we get from a line like, do your bones ache like mine early on in the song to, but I've only begun to bleed towards the end. Like, what a journey. Yeah. And some body horror, maybe? A little bit.
It's again, Tim is just so good at selling a very cliche line. Like, is there nothing that can save us now? It's like they've probably used that lyric before and it still works on me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like I've heard that on a Rise Against album.
Yeah.
Or at least a B-side.
Yeah. It's still great though.
Definitely.
Then next up is Last Man Standing, which I'm just going to come straight out and say this is in my top 5 Rise Against songs. I think this song is just spectacular.
I mean, it's a great song. I don't think I like it quite as much as you, but I think that's just because you're so hot on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the bass line right at the top that I just love, which I should learn how to play.
Yes.
it's got this melody in that verse and bridge that is, I think it's just magical to me. I don't know what it is. It's to me like the catchiest thing Tim has ever written. And I love that lyric. There's a road that I'm staring at, a foot on both the brake and gas, which is this like image of indecision and uncertainty. It's, I don't know, it's so good. Every little bit of the song I think is like perfectly constructed.
Yeah, I mean it's so solid. And I actually called out the line right after the one you just mentioned, the I don't know how to leave or how to stay. Like still really like harkening back to that kind of tension that the band often explores, the like do we improve things the way they are now, or do we just like go do something else or burn it all down or whatever form that takes?
Yeah. It's tapping into that. It's tapping into this idea of like perseverance and dedication and loyalty. It's a lot of their favorite themes in this one.
Yeah. I also want to call out so today the world looks like a broken toy once capable of endless joy. So good. Such a good line. Such a good rhyme. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and yeah, again, we've mentioned a couple times, but like Rise Against has not always been the most dynamic band within a song. Obviously they have like the acoustic tracks that sort of offset things, but on the album and on the EP, I think some of their like second verses that get quiet are some of the best moments on the album.
Yeah, that is definitely a good catch. That really hadn't occurred to me because, like, yeah, on past albums they've been like, we had to have this song in order to balance everything out. But I feel like that's like pretty self-evident within most of the tracks here, honestly.
Yeah. They did a music video for this one, which is really Squid Game inspired.
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah, a lot of rich people betting on whether someone can shoot an arrow into the back of other people who are running away. It just felt like Squid Game to me. A fine music video, nothing like to write home about.
Yeah, it's going for something, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. After that is This Time It's Personal. This is the one on this album that I'm not, or on this EP that I'm not as big on, where it's like, yeah, I see why this is a B-side. It's not a bad song, but I don't know. Do you feel like this is a song more about like loss or revenge, or how do you read this one?
It feels like it's trying to be a lot of things, I think. Like a lot of Rise Against things. Because like we get a line, about children dodging bombs and how that makes all your flags look the same to me, which like I think is a like very quintessentially Rise Against line.
That's the best part of the song and has only gotten more relevant since the song came out.
Yeah, I know. It's that's I think why I grasped onto it so much. But yeah, it is almost obvious for a Rise Against line, but it's so poignant in a way and so spot on. Yeah, I don't know. Like aside from that, I feel like we're kind of trying to cover a lot of Rise Against ground here. I do really like the opening riff. The guitar tone on that is like pretty cool, and it does come back a couple times. And the bridge is pretty fun instrumentally. But beyond that, I don't have much else to say about this one.
Yeah, same. Got a good hey in the bridge.
It does have a good hey in the bridge.
Next up is Pain Management. This is another one that I really like a lot. Another song that's, kind of going after the a system of the world. This time, I think is kind of like medical debt, I guess, or the at least is how I read it, as being, a song about how, getting sick can make you go bankrupt and then it'll kill you. And like wanting to find a way to fix that and not really knowing how.
Yeah. This feels like kind of a companion piece to songs like Tragedy in Time and Far From Perfect, but like from the angle of, the healthcare system and the ways in which that screws us all.
Yeah. This one also has a music video. This one is like a high concept video. Although I think it's mostly an excuse to do some bass jumping.
Sure.
Did you watch this one?
I did not.
Okay. This music video is like, it starts off with, again, for some reason, an image that recurs in Rise Against music videos, which is people in masks on motorcycles.
Yes.
And in this case, they're clearly getting hunted or targeted by like surveillance drones, and then later by like, armed soldiers. And they are running away on motorcycles, clearly like trying to protect, some kind of product, or like going to some stash and hiding things on their person as they're riding away. And then they ride their motorcycles off of a cliff and parachute down. And it's, it's that kind of thing. It's some extreme sports stuff. And then at the end, it's revealed that they were smuggling books and they're reading Fahrenheit 451, which is cute, but of course it works.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. It's a cool video. It's definitely the most like the most involved music video, save from this era. I mean, save for maybe Last Man Standing, but this one seems like it took a little bit more. There's a little bit more to making this one.
Yeah, definitely.
And then finally, last song on the EP is Holding Patterns, which is, again, I think a solid ending track for this, because it's another classic Rise Against theme of solidarity and standing by each other in the face of adversity. Do you like this one?
I love this one. My big question on this is who's on the background vocals on this one?
I don't know. Is it not
there is a
just
falsetto
Joe?
voice? It could be, but I don't think anybody in the band has that kind of falsetto, though. Maybe they do.
Let me see. I did not catch that specifically. Let me see if the credits are up on Discogs.
I looking at it on Tidal, it credited the band as doing background vocals. So like maybe one of them just has a really really tight like Freddie Mercury situation going on.
Let's see. Chad Price of Drag the River and A Vulture Wake is credited with some backing vocals. As is Joe. Anyone else on here? Nope. So that's probably who it is. If it's a voice that doesn't seem like it's someone in the band.
It should be also mentioned that Chad Price is from All.
Yes.
Yes. I don't want to lose all our punk cred.
I've already lost all my punk cred. Don't worry.
No, I know. I'm just trying to save our collective asses a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything you would put on the album? Like, would you swap this out for Rules of Play on the album or anything like that?
That's a great question. Maybe? No, probably not. You know what? I might try it. I might try it and see how it feels. I'm interested in how that affects the kind of back half of the album. Because I do think Rules of Play would work fine here. And I'm sure Holding Patterns would work well, as a closer to Nowhere Generation proper. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
They're playing with similar ideas. I mean, it's a kind of thing where like, you can't have them both. That gets a little repetitive.
No, definitely not.
And I like that both the EP and the album have like a functional closing track. I think I just like this song a little bit more than I like Rules of Play.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's a really strong track, like undeniably a great closer, even if it's just closing out a 5-song EP.
Yeah, for sure. That's this era of the band. This is really good stuff. I love it.
I legitimately like my love for this album has only grown in the last week or so.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that they found the fire again. I really like thought it was gone, and at the time I did, and even more so like listening to the less lauded parts of their discography in a pretty quick succession. I was just like, man, Wolves is a tough hang. It's really bad.
Yeah. Did we subject ourselves to the David Lynch series of music here? No, that's not true at all. We could do much worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it got dire there for a little while, so I'm really glad that we have this to kind of, sort of end on, if you will.
Yeah, so they have since, released 2 new singles, Nod and Prize Fighter. We are assuming there's going to be a new album coming this year.
Probably.
The singles got some mixed responses, and there's a rumor floating around that they are remixing the entire album based on the feedback about the production and mix of those 2 songs. Really curious to see what happens with that. I mean, it'll be very obvious once the album comes out if those songs sound vastly different. But we will, in blank check fashion, as we've completely ripped off their format, when the new album comes out, we will do an episode, a one-off episode on it. Is this going to be, it's definitely going to be the first band that we've covered to release a new album, while we're doing the podcast, right?
Unless we get real surprised by somebody.
Rilo Kiley surprise album drop.
You know what? I wouldn't hate it.
They're on Kimmel on Thursday. What if they play a new song and then there's a new album out on Friday?
Good God. That would be the coolest thing ever, and therefore I can't trust it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree. But no, I think most likely we'll be getting a new Rise Against album later this year.
I would be shocked if we don't get it by the end of the year, honestly, even if it does get remixed and remastered.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Same.
Yeah, which means it's time to rank the discography so far.
Whew. Yeah, it is.
All right, you want to go first?
No, but I will.
Okay.
Let me pull up my note, which might become a notes app. Apology. No, just kidding. It's fine. I would say all these albums are good, but they're not.
I mean, if you put Wolves number 1, I am going to make you apologize.
No, you would be correct to do that. Okay. All right. So we got nine albums here. All right. So, number 9, surprising literally nobody, Wolves, the worst Rise Against album. I don't need to elaborate on that. You all heard that last week. Number 8 for me is Endgame, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me, in that I like the Black Market more than I like Endgame, I think, overall, which puts the Black Market at number 7 for me. A surprisingly solid album based on what I remembered of it. Number 6 for me is Appeal to Reason. I did gain a lot of appreciation for this album, revisiting it for the podcast, but I don't think it hangs with the top 5, which the top 5 starts with this one, Nowhere Generation, an album that I really, really love now. Like, I started off liking it a lot, and I think I moved up my rating on it on Factory over the last couple of listens, because I think it gets better with subsequent listens. Perhaps unsurprisingly, right above that is The Unraveling, an album that I just have immense love for. There's some okay songs on that album, but I don't think there's any like duds by any means, and I think it mostly holds up for a debut album from a brand new band. You know, a band of people who have done bands before, but like, you know, a band debuting something pretty new, pretty novel. All right, I'm going to just have to stick with the list at this point. Above that is Siren Song at number 3, Siren Song of the Counterculture, for those who like the full album titles. An album with no misses, which maybe makes it a little surprising that number 2 for me is Sufferer and the Witness, an album where I think I've cooled on a couple of the songs, but like the highs on that record are so high that I think it kind of offsets things for me. Like, truly, Siren Song and Sufferer are like almost tied for number 2 for me. But number 1 with a bullet, no question, Revolutions Per Minute. I think it will always be my favorite Rise Against album unless they really knock my socks off sometime in the future.
How sick would it be if they just came back with another album that was better than Revolutions Per Minute?
Revolutions Per Minute 2, baby. That would be incredible. I would love nothing more than to get a Rise Against album I like more than Revolutions Per Minute, because that would be a perfect album.
Yeah.
A perfect plus album. But yeah, I've said enough about this. I'm sure you're going to say similar things about that record in particular, but what do you have for your ranking, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, our rankings are unsurprisingly pretty similar. I got Wolves at number 9. No more comment needed. Then I have a whole chunk of albums that I think are you know, I love a handful of songs and don't care for some. But so yeah, 8 is Endgame, 7 The Black Market, 6 The Unraveling, 5 Appeal to Reason. So those 4 albums, yeah, they're in that mode of like they've got some of my favorite songs on them, but I just don't go back to them as much as albums. And then after that, I think are just truly great albums. So I've got Nowhere Generation at 4. Siren Song at 3, Sufferer at 2, and Revolutions Per Minute at 1, of course.
Of course. There's no other way to do it. That is, it feels weird to say objectively the best one, but in a lot of ways it feels like it's objectively the best one.
I mean, yeah, I just don't know how you have an experience of this band like we've had over the course of our lives and that isn't your number 1.
Right.
It's so good. All right, random recommendation time.
God, I barely have anything. I actually have nothing prepared. You go first. I'm going to figure something out.
Okay. I am going to recommend the new album by the band Sazalo. Album is called The Quiet Year. This is a new band featuring Rocky Vodolato on vocals and Rudy Gadahar from Gatsby's American Dream on drums. And I don't remember off the top of my head who plays bass on it. And I have closed the tab, so I'm not going to be able to tell you that right this second. This is just an incredible album. I mean, I like Rocky Vodolato a lot, and I did not see this one coming. This is he went through he lost a child in a car accident a handful of years ago, and this album is his processing of that grief. And if you're the kind of person who can't listen to Stage 4 or The Lack Long After or an album, or what's the Mount Erie album more than once?
Crow Looked at Me.
Yeah, it's that kind of album. It is just like there are moments on this record, and it sounds like none of those. This is like a sort of grungy indie rock record, almost like a, Sea Haven covering Pedro the Lion sort of sound. But man, there are moments on this album where he just screams. There's without a lyric, and it feels like you're just hearing too much of his soul. Like it's too personal, and I shouldn't be allowed to hear this emotion come out of another person. One of the I've only listened to it once today, but I'm going to be, emotionally, if I can go back to it, I will be listening to it a ton this year. It is a spectacular album, and I cannot recommend it enough if you can take the subject matter.
You have 100% sold me on listening to this album one time, and we'll see what happens after that. But that sounds very up my alley. Also, I love Rocky Vodolato, so like that's a pretty good jumping off point anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also bringing an album. A lot of good stuff has come out lately, so I think that was kind of why I struggled a little bit. But a big standout for me has been the new Model Actress record, Pirouette. For those who don't know, Model Actress is I guess an industrial band, kind of, but not really. They don't really use synths or anything like that. But like, if you're into bands like, Nine Inch Nails or any, or like kind of goth club music, and you want a band that is doing something like that, but with guitars instead, Model Actress is for you. Their first album, Dog's Body, was an album that was so hyped up that I didn't listen to it for a while because I was like, there's no way this is as good as people are saying it is. I'm just going to be disappointed. And I wasn't. It's an almost perfect album. And Pirouette is pretty much on par with it. Maybe more deeply personal lyrics from Cole, the lead singer. But like, notably, my favorite thing about this band is that there is one song on this record where the guitarist plays the guitar like a guitar, and only one. Everything else is like playing like up below the bridge or above the nut, and doing other like odd stuff like that to
extended
make
technique,
the guitar not. Yeah, effectively extended technique. Yeah, but like there's a lot of bass driving the album as a result. This band is the reason that I use one floor tom in one of my bands and no other toms, because I just think that's neat that you can get a lot out of that. But yeah, Pirouette by Model Actress, very good record. Will probably be somewhere in my top 10 at the end of the year, but we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, you are not the first person who I have seen recommend this album, and so I'm it is on my list.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next week we're done with Rise Against, obviously, but we are staying in the Rise Against family. We're going to do a one-off episode on Tim's side project, The Killing Tree, on the album The Romance of Helen Trent. They're only full length, although they have a couple of EPs as well. Excited about that one. I just started listening to that stuff this week. It's very different than Rise Against.
It sure is.
And I think we're going to have our first guest on that episode, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Barring catastrophe, we'll have a friend on this one, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. Should we reveal what our next series is going to be?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. After the Killing Tree episode, we are going to tackle one of probably the pillars of this scene, as if the bands we've already talked about haven't been, but even more so. We're doing a series on My Chemical Romance. It's going to be a good one, I think.
It's going to be a great one. I love that band so much, and that's why I chose them.
I'm so excited.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing for the next month and a half or so. And in the meantime, please like and subscribe. No, well,
please, do that. We're begging you.
Yeah. No, follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod. Find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com. And we will see you next week.